So I hope it is visible to everyone. So, I mean, yeah. So basically, generally, what we have done till now is, so basically we have seen almost all aspects of what we can do with Python in terms of data analysis, right? Not data analysis, data manipulation, right? We have not touched on data analysis, right? Because that is out of scope of this. But you have learned enough data manipulation so that what I think will be left for you is to generate insights from that manipulation, right? And plot them into something which is visually, which visually makes sense to someone who has to take decisions. So I think if you have done enough data analysis using pandas and NumPy, I don't think there should be any issue for you to get into the data analysis part, right? But our focus will be on web scraping. So what we are left with now is only two topics. In fact, let us take all of it as one topic because ultimately what we will be seeing, uh, whatever part is left, is around web scraping only, right? So, uh, okay. So there are two, we have already seen how to scrape a, hello, hello, yeah, sorry, let me repeat. So yeah, we have already seen how to scrape a static source, right? Which does not change, does not have any, uh, something like form for which you have to fill a form and then the data will be generated, right? And there are some more advanced sites. So, but we have seen only simple sites, just like we saw this coronavirus, wala, this one, right? Live. So this one we took as a static site, and there was this table that we scraped, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, and that we did using some requests module, right? And pass the data using BeautifulSoup. So we have a basic idea that how we can scrape uh, a static source, right? But what about form-driven pages, right? So, for example, right, make my trip we saw, okay, and it wanted you to put some form, and only then, for example, I put 31st here and then search, right? Only then it will be showing me some data, right? If I, by default it was selected as 8, so it was not showing any data. So this is like a form driven page, right? You have user input driven page, okay? So we will see how to scrape those kind of pages because we have not touched upon that yet, right? And but we have already discussed in one of our lectures that the how to inspect networks, right? How to see what kind of request it is, what are the request headers, right? So if I have to quickly show you again, and let me just open my console once, right? This is my console, and I already showed you last time that how requests are sent at the backend, right? So if I say this one I requested, right? So it would basically send a request to this page called coronavirus, and then there would be, let me just, there would be some request URL on which the request was sent, right? The same here. The request method was there. We talked about status scores. Basically, 200 means that the response was successfully sent back, right? There was no error here. And remote address means basically where it was actually hosted, right? And then there were some response headers where we saw the content type which was sent back by the server. There are other stuff, right? There is there are some stuff, okay? And then there is request headers. The request headers are basically the information that you send to the server to identify this resource and send you back, right? So this is what it means, like request headers, okay? So here in on this site we saw that there are some request headers, right? But there are no form, form parameters. Let me put it here and say, um, So this is like a form, right? I can say um, Japan, Japan, and when I hit enter, right? When I hit enter, what would happen is, I mean, okay, this is a JavaScript generated thing, so nothing happened. But let me do it somewhere else. In fact, not this is not a great example. Let me share you with some GST thing that we did recently. Okay. So, for example, this is a page, right? Here we have a form, and only when we fill this something, right, we have a response. So, if I have to quickly see, if I, input it here and then press a search button, I see that a request was sent, right? And that request had some general stuff, some response headers that was sent back, and the request headers, right? But along with that, it had some form data, right? So, form data is basically what form, okay, basically what data was sent to the server, right? And in response of which this page was sent back, which had all this data, right? So if I see the response, I can see some HTML was sent back to me, and that HTML actually had this data, right? It was not there by default, but only when the request was sent, this came back, right? So we have this basic concepts ready with us so that we can, now understand how to exactly fetch data from a source which has a form parameter, right? So we have not seen it yet. Apart from that, everything else is done. If we have a response like this, we have seen how to parse it, how to get these small elements out of it, and which was fairly easy, right? And then we have done substantial data manipulation to extract such kind of data and then do whatever we want, even format it, remove commas, do something, basically capitalize all of it, right? It's up to us. So let's proceed and see how to scrape such a site, right? So uh, and yeah, so before that, let me just define the agenda once. So after we're done with form driven pages, right, there is one more kind of page that requires you to input some JavaScript, right? So for example, um, if I say, again, make my trip was like a good example only. Basically, if you have, let me just, if you have something like this where only if you click this and this data will appear, right? If you click fair summary, only then the fair summary will appear on the page, and only then you'll be able to scrape it, right? So this kind of pages is basically user interaction driven, or JavaScript driven pages, right? JavaScript driven data. So that is second type. And then there is one more type where we fetch data from some, we fetch data from, basically, let me see, they have something. Anyway, so basically they fetch it using some API. They might be using it definitely here. We'll have to properly inspect each of these links and see which one is the API that is being hit, right? But they must be using some API as well. So the third type is API, right? If I have to show you what the API looks like, I can just go to requests, requests Python, right? And in this one, I can probably get something. Here I had some, this one. Okay, I had some JSON response. So if I just go here once, I can see that this is some API provided by a website called github.com. And this API is basically returning me with some data, right? And this data, I mean, obviously looks a bit intimidating, but it is the most easy form in which we can get data, right? And because it has some keys and it has some values, right? So basically, the Python can read this particular data type, which is a JSON data type, as a dictionary, right? And when you have a dictionary in Python, then you can do unlimited stuff, right? So, I mean, this is the third kind of sources for us. So we will learn about all three of them, right? And I mean, that would be, we would be powerful enough to do lot of stuff. Okay, so let us start with our session. Okay, so right, I mean you have already seen this example. Okay, so the first time I came on the site, right, I saw that it sent a request to something, right, and that response when I checked, it did not have those tables, right? No tables in this response. Okay, we've already seen there is no table. But when I filled something with this one, right, some number here or some you know GST number, so then it again sent a request, right? But this time it sent a request with some form parameters to the same link, and this was a post request, right? So whenever we are trying to fetch something, right, and send some data to the server, we will always have to use post request. Again, let me show you. Okay, this should make sense to everyone. I did this. I did not put any form data here. I just requested the link. Okay. So when I requested the link, I see something, 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 but there is no form data here, right? So basically, you did a get request, right? You just wanted to fetch it and do nothing else. So it was a get request, and it was sent with basically nothing, right? There is no response. Basically, there is a response, but there is no table that we want, right? But next time, what I did, I sent it with some GST data. And then when I, click this button, what happened was a request was sent again, right, to the same link. Okay, same link. And here I see that my request method is now post. Basically, I sent some data to the server, and based on that, server returned me some response, right? So these are the response headers. But this time I saw that there was some form data sent, right? So it was a post request with some form data sent. This exactly happens on almost every website, right? Whichever is form driven data, this is what happens on all of the sites, right? So let's quickly get our hands dirty into this, and in fact, let's scrape this particular site only, right? So we have multiple methods, right? And we will be using the easiest for now. Okay. So, but what happens here is that you have something called set cookie, right? What you have to expect generally when you are scraping a site, right? First time you will do something like this only. Okay. You will go to the actual link. You will post some form data and see that what exactly my request headers and everything looks like, right? And in that I will inspect that it was a post request. Somewhere what happens is that this particular data is also sent as a get request in here, something like this, something. Okay, that is a get request. Basically, you're allowing your data to be sent into URL. In this post request, the data is not sent into the URL because of uh, security concerns or other things, because even passwords are sent as form data, right? So because of security concerns, we generally use post data so that it is not visible to everyone. Okay, but this is what you'll do. Then you will come down and see that the first time that whenever you made a request, what happened was the server tried to set some cookie, right? Okay, it tried to set some cookie. Okay, so next time uh, and we can also see that a cookie was sent when I was requesting it. Okay, my request. No need to get into what these cookies are. Okay, cookies basically just store some information such that next time the server can understand that the request is sent by the same person. Okay, the person which sent previous request, he is sending the request again. So such kind of data is stored here, right? Obviously, there can be other kind of stuff. So they have stored something, a lot of variables, right? Stored some data, but basically from this, right, something is being sent back and set as cookie, right? So before, without the server able to understand this cookie, I will not able to send this post data, right? And will not be getting a response. Okay. Obviously, this might not be that relevant. So let us let us scrape some power data, right? And so maybe let's scrape power exchange PXI data. Okay. So let's scrape our own website called the powerexchangeindia.com, right? So in that, I mean, let's say you had to, I mean, obviously it's not of a great use. It might be of great use if you like, but let's say you wanted to scrape data, right, of dash data, right? And in that, I come here, okay? I come to view reports, right? Obviously, some requests are being sent for all this, but that's okay. We don't need to inspect that. Only on the page that we come, right? And where we have to get my data, right? Only there I have to inspect these stuff. So let it happen, and I'll just clear it. So if you want to clear and start from scratch, right, you can obviously clear it, right? But that does not mean that things will stop. It just records whatever is happening at the back and presents you here. You clearing it does not mean that those processes will stop, right? Those will still be happen, but next time whatever you will do, only then it will come. Okay. So here we can see that, in fact, let me just make a get request from start. So it's whenever I, let's say I directly came here, right? So what it did was it gave me some default data, okay, for today's date, I guess, okay, today's date. But even to get that data, okay, it sent some request to the server, okay. So for example, this one, and here we saw that it's a get request, right? It just wanted to get some data, okay. And there are other things called, I mean, they're using Microsoft IAS server. Some cookie was obviously set by the uh, you know this server. Okay, when the I mean you sent a cookie to get yourself recognized. Okay, in this case it's a CRF token, CSRF token, right? And then there are other stuff to basically let it identify that what response is to be sent. So by default, it sends today's response. But let's say, and this is a get request, right? I did not do anything. I did not play with the form data yet, right? So this is a get request. Let me clear it again. Now let me try to get data from some other date. Let's say 28, right? 28. Let's say I wanted to get from 28 to 28 from 015 to all. So basically I've changed some data, and then when I will submit this, so my data will be 28 here and 28 relevant data will come here, right? So obviously you have options to do all of those stuff here, but let's say I mean, this is one more step, right? You will have to download it and then do something from it. Let's say you created a script where you could scrape it and then do data manipulation and create the final report, right? That would be great. So that's exactly, I mean, I feel what should be doing right now. Okay. So what we will do is that we will somehow first try to learn that how to scrape this data, and then what we will do is that we will print, I mean, we will export this data, 3 days data, right? We have currently, I mean, 28, 20. So we will do it for last 3 days, 29, 27, and 26, like 29, 28, and 27, right? For 3 days. And we will export them into 3 sheets in Excel. Okay. And obviously we may do some data manipulation. We will see what we can do, right? But let's try and do it as an exercise. Okay. So I hope this is fine. I hope until now everything is clear what we're trying to achieve. Okay. So here I already did something, but I did not press submit. So my data is still for 29. Okay. Let me quickly press submit. And when I press submit, what happens is that some request was sent. Let me just show you. Okay. A request was sent again to the same link, right? But this time it was a post request. Okay. So you wanted to send some data, not in the URL, but just to the server for it to identify. And what happened, let me just move it down again. Here, this time what happened that there was some form data. Basically, some form data was changed, and then submit was pressed or enter was pressed. If there is no submit, there is enter, right? So, but enter or submit was pressed, then this particular form data was sent to the server, and basis which it generated a response and sent it back to you here, right? You can see that now the data is of 28. Okay. So what do I get? I mean, what's my takeaway is that I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 elements for me to choose. Like these are my choices. Okay. So I mean these photos should have been sent to the server, right? And you can verify directly from here, right? That the delivery date as a parameter was sent, delivery to date was sent from our end to our was sent, right? Apart from that, I also saw that there were two more, right? Two more things were sent. So whenever something happens like that, you have to always assume that these were like kind of hidden inputs, okay, which were also sent to the server. So you will have your own what you are sending from the form, and then might be some more which are like hidden inputs again sent to the server to identify the correct resource to be displayed on this web page, right? So again, what you have to do basically is to evaluate the same request and send it back to the server, right? You have to act as a user or a user agent. Basically, I mean, you are a user who is using this site, right? But what exactly happens is that when you're clicking on something or doing enter or whatever you're doing, what you're doing is basically asking this user agent, which is the browser, right? Browser to basically do that thing. Okay. Browser is doing things on your behalf. So browser is your user agent, right? There it says user agent, right? Your user agent is Mozilla, Apple WebKit, Chrome, etc. Right? So uh, that's what. Okay, your user agent is currently your browser, so you have to create a script in Python which acts as the same user agent and get this data and then manipulate it and then do whatever it wants. Okay, fairly clear to everyone. Only to Dave and Seeker, but that's okay. So I will just put this forward, right? You can I mean ignore these for now and focus on these, right? These things, some of these, I mean let's proceed further and then see how we can identify these things. Okay, so uh, in fact let's first see that, because that is important. What happens, I mean, if something like that happens, you have more number of inputs sent to the server as form data then you originally anticipated through form. What you do is you see the page source. Okay, simply requires you to, so I will just do a simple page source. And then what I will see, I will basically want to inspect this form and see if there are other hidden inputs when I press submit, if there are other hidden inputs sent to the server. Okay, so I will just find that form here. Okay, and this is my form. I can see my form starts from here. Okay, and something is here. Okay. In fact, the first thing I can see here is that there is an input. Just can you give me 1 minute? I just take a call. Sorry for interruption. Hello everyone. Sorry for a brief interruption. There is actually some issue in my course, so I'm pursuing a basically postgraduate diploma in machine learning AI from Triple IT Bangalore, and there is some issue there, so that is that. So I'll just continue. Okay. I hope that did not create a lot of disturbance. Anyway, so what I was telling is that whenever something happens like this, where you have more number of parameters being sent to the server than the actual number of inputs that are there, what you do is you go to the view source and you find that form, and in that form you try to find the uh, a basically hidden tags, right? So you have one input hidden here, right? And we can see that it's CSR and middle token. So whenever this form is submitted, this particular name is also sent here, right? So that is what we can see here, okay? And okay, it has some value. And then there must be one more hidden input, okay? So let me go down and down and down and not here. I'm sorry, just one more minute. Uh, I'm sorry, guys. I think I'll get one more call in a minute, and that would be it. Okay, last call. Hello. Yeah, Dave and Srikar, क्या चल रहा है? I hope you're able to understand. कुछ बोलो.
We are able to get
ठीक
it
है.
till now.
Srikar is not there. चलो ठीक है, मैं I will just continue. Right.
नहीं कुछ काम है
So
क्या?
what we are trying. काम नहीं कोई काम नहीं है यार, बस ऐसे ही पूछ रहा था
अच्छा अच्छा
कि बेसिकली 2 बार बीच में डिस्कनेक्ट
अरे
हो
वो
गया
कोई
था.
दिक्कत नहीं.
ठीक है,
ओके
चलो ठीक है, आगे प्रोसीड करते हैं. ओके गाइस, तो अभी आगे बढ़ते हैं। इसमें क्या है कि हाँ, सो व्हाट वी वांट टू डू इज बेसिकली फाइंड वन मोर हिडन इनपुट, मस्ट बी समवेयर. Okay, so in fact the better would be to just let me find the hidden ones. Okay, and I can find one hidden one here. Okay, and only one hidden one, right? There is none, no more hidden ones. Okay, but I'm sure that, yeah, this particular submit button itself has some value, which is submit, right? And it has some name which is also sent to the server, even though it is not a, basically a hidden input, right? So basically what you could do was just say type submit, and you did not need to specify a value and name, right? And even if you submit the submit button, these parameters will still be sent back to the server. But here what happens is that someone who has coded, right, they have also put name and submit, and that is why this name and value is also being sent to the server. So nothing surprising here. Okay, so now that I have understood that what two exact extra things are coming, I can now start my uh, scraping, right? So basically my ultimate aim is to send this data to server, right? Inspect response if that response actually has this data, and then parse it using Beautiful Soup, and then it becomes easy. Okay, so let me evaluate, right? Evaluate this particular request that we are actually sending using this submit button, using my own user agent, that is Python, right? So let me reconnect, and this is my session 13 web scraping. Okay, I will share it with you later. So I'll just close this, and this is my website that I want to scrape, right? So first thing I will do is import. So let me first define the problem statement itself. Okay? So first problem statement is get the dash data from EXIL website, and website. In fact, let's do scrape the dash data from the Excel website, and uh, for last 3 days, and save it into an Excel file. Okay, that's it. This is what we want to do as our problem statement one. So before even trying to do anything, I will import my modules, right? Import my modules. So remember, what we are trying to do again is currently only scrape form driven page. Okay, there is something called user interaction driven pages. So we will come to that, but only currently this one. Okay. Now importing my modules, import my modules. In fact, not my, but required ones. Required modules, and then my required modules are first import requests. Right. This is to send requests to the server. Okay. And then another one that I want is which one? So once I have the data, right, my requests will get fetch me the data in form of HTML. Then I will need to parse it, right? So I can parse it using Beautiful Soup, right? From BS4 import Beautiful Soup, Beautiful Soup, right? And this is for parsing in the response, and then I want to export it finally. So the easiest way to export it that I have seen till now is using pandas. So I'll just say, in fact, I'll say import pandas as PD. Okay. So right happens. I'll just write it to export the data in Excel sheets. Okay. So I'll just run it, and my modules will be imported. Now, what I need to do, I need to start it, right? So my first step always, there are preliminary steps, right? Before the first step, the zeroth steps, and which we have already done. We have seen how this works, what's happening at the back, right? So we're pretty confident that if we send a post request uh, uh, with something like this, right? And then I send my form parameters, then my response should be something like this. This should be my response, and this response actually has my data, right? So I can just confirm it. So yeah, my data is there. Okay. So I can then get my data. Okay. Uh, right. So right away, let me try and do that. Okay. But before that, one more concept, last concept, right? So whenever you see something like this set cookie, right? Set cookie or uh, again something here also you have a cookie. So what this essentially means that this website uses something to track you, basically identify you. Okay, identify you. I mean, not exactly identifying, but basically it's keeping some information about your session that you have come in. So this particular thing, I mean, if I just open it here again and say this, right? This again, I came on the website, but from incognito window, right? So basically, I again came, and if I just check, right, and just put a submit once, here I can see that I have some, let me just show you. I have a CSRF token, right? CSRF token, set cookie, RK9, blah, 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 right? But here in my original, I mean the other one, I have my CSRF token as SCM, in fact, if you want to see it here, SCM PQ9, blah, 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 right? So, I mean, this one and that particular browser is taken as different session. But let me show you again that if I open this thing here, right, and if I see my FL, uh, again, where is it? Submit, right? I'll just press the submit once. And when I'll press the submit, my request will be sent again. Right? So, where is it? This one. And in this I can see that my CSR token is SCM blah blah blah, okay, which is same as which is what is here, right? So the same browser, I mean, it's I'm not using an incognito session, and here I'm using an incognito session, right? In both of them, the browser, I mean, the site identifies me as two different persons, and that is why it has set two different cookies here as well as here, right? So what I will have to do is whenever I will have to come to such a site, I will have to get myself a cookie from the server. And that is why first time we go to any site, we make a get request, right? When we make a get request first time, even if it is a form based site, that's okay. You still have to first time make a get request, right? What that will do is the server in the response headers, right? This is a response header which was sent from the server, and then that was set as the cookie, right? So your server will send you some cookie as set cookie, right? And then that will be identified in the next session, right? Because you have no other parameter where you can send this one, right? So you will have to somehow, extract this particular thing from the response itself, from the first response, and then you have to send it back in the second request. Okay, right? I hope this is clear. I hope this does not confuse. What you have to do first time, you have no reference of the CSR middleware token when you came to the site first time. When the server response was sent, this particular CSRF middleware token was sent back by the server, and now it was there in your view source, right? You could already see, we saw it here, right? It was there in the page source itself. Okay. Now you can extract it from here and send it back to the server as a form parameter, right? And then you will get this response, right? Otherwise, you would not get it, right? So before making any post request, you will have to make a get request first. And let's verify this, okay? So if I say, let's say my, uh, I mean, first request, right? So my first request will always be a get request, right? But I have already seen that, I mean, I will have to work in a session so that I can, uh, I can, I mean, I can basically identify myself, because this session and this session were different, right? So I will have to work in a session, and this is why, I mean, since you have so much extra data, request headers that you have to send, which will be same every time. What you do, you work in a session. And I mean, to handle this exactly, what we have is something called request sessions, right? So if you do request dot session Python, right? What we can see is that what it says, the session object, let me just bring it here down, there, or should be fine here. Okay. So it says the session object allows you to persist certain parameters across requests. Allow you to persist certain parameters. Which will be those parameters? This one. So we can see there is always some request header sent, right? And the request header will be same. So you don't need to specifically send these request headers yourself. What session object will do is send those requests itself by its own. I mean, first time in the session, it would get those variables, get those parameters, and in the subsequent request, it will send those parameters to the server, right? Because they also serve as identifiers. These request headers before the form data, these are also to be sent. But we will not be sending it manually. The session object will send it itself, because it will keep track. Why? Because it will have the response headers, which it will send back as the request headers, right? And the form data we will send. Okay. So I hope this is clear to everyone. We will use the request.session object. Okay. So this is a class session, right? And then we would use the same methods we use in request.get and request.post, something like that, right? But we will use the session object. Okay, so let's, I hope, in fact, if I had to show you, I will just say request.get, and then this particular thing, right? What this gives me is nothing. I mean, this does not give me something in session. So what I will have to do is that from first underscore request, I will have to get that set cookie, right? Set cookie, and then I will have to store it in some variable, right? Let's say cookie variable, right? Something like this, and then again send it back to server. I don't want to do this for each of those elements, each of those headers, which should be set by default, right? So that is why I use something called a session. Okay, I hope this makes sense, because I mean, someone who is from web development, I mean, has some background in web development, will be able to understand a session, but I hope you still are able to get it. So what I will do, I will create a session object, right? And I will call it requests, right? Requests dot session. Okay. And what this says now is that I have an object session to deal with session data, right? So there is something called session data, and this particular object will deal with all that session data, right? So now I can do session dot get, right? And what now my first request object will have, since I'm working with a session, it will have all of these parameters into it, right? And the next request I send, these will be sent automatically. Okay. So if I see here, and I see, in fact, I have done request.get, so I can do what? I can do some of the things, but let's see. Okay. So I can check the headers first, right? In fact, even before doing any of this, let me just run this cell, because I mean, we have to inspect this properly. So what I will do is I will do dir first strip, right? And then see that what first right. Okay. So I have to see what all objects it has. So it basically has something called request, something called URL dot text, right? Some connection object, headers, right? So what I want to check is headers, right? If this headers actually has all of the data, which I am seeing right here. Okay, so I'll just see and say first request dot headers headers, and if I just see the headers, right, what will happen is that it will print me some headers here, and I can see that the date, content type, all of that, blah blah blah, and then even the set cookie, which was, these are basically the response headers, right? Because this is a response. You have already sent a request, right? So this request will send some response, which is now stored in this. So these are response headers, and we can see that the response headers are now exactly what we are able to see here, right? Exactly these. So I don't need to do anything else now, right? These are response headers, and these will now be sent as request headers automatically next time. I don't need to do specify anything else. Okay? Let me just move to the next line and say that. So, but one thing before that, even before that, what I have to exactly get from the, so I don't have anything to get that CSRF middleware token. Obviously, I could do what? I could uh, from Beautiful Soup, I could parse this, come to input of name CSRF middleware taken, and then out of that I would have extracted the value of this. But that would be tedious, right? So I mean, I should have a better way to do that, right? So what I will do is that I will access that particular variable itself. It says what its name is called set cookie, right? So it is also in a dictionary, and then there is some value to it. So let me just get that dictionary first. So I'll say first rec dot headers, right? Headers, and in that headers I have one uh, dictionary with a key called set cookie, right? So I can say set cookie. What this will give me is the cookie, right? It will just give me the cookie. And now I can see, if I just see the type of it, type, in fact, type, what it will give me is a string, right? It returns a string. So basically, I want what? I want this particular part to be sent to the server somehow. So I have to extract this, right? What I will do is that this is already a string, right? Until here, and it has this value, right? This big value. Okay. But what I want in that string, I want only this CRSF token one. So if I could split this string at this particular thing, okay, and get the first element, right? In this particular string, I split it at this and get the first element. I will have this particular part, right? So let me just split it at what? Split it at this one, and then get the first part, right? If I just print it, I'll see that I have only the part of CSRF token, right? But this is not what I want. Again, this is a string, so I could split it on this one, and my last element will always be CSRF token. Okay, so I can just split it again, right? I hope this particular way of doing things is clear to everyone, because we already have some object. We can apply some method on that object, right? Okay, so that is exactly what we're doing. Here we had a string object. In fact, until here we had a dictionary. Here we had a response. Until here we had a dictionary. Until here we had a string. Until here again we had a string. And then on string again I can put a split method. So I'll say this one, right? In fact, equal to, because we have to split it on equal to. And the last one, right? The -1 index will always be my CSRF token. So if I just say, in fact, let me just print it and see, right? I got it. Now I have to just send it back to the server, right? Let us see how we do that. But before that, let me just say CSRF token, right? So I'll just, oh, I have now held this variable and the string CSRF token into a variable called CSRF token, right? So now my CSRF token is held in this. Okay. So one of my problems are solved now, right? And the rest of them are very easy. I don't need to do anything. I just have to, in fact, what I will do almost always is copy all of these. In fact, you will copy all of these, right? And create a dictionary. So for your form data, you will always create a dictionary yourself, right? So I will say that create a dictionary with data to be sent to the server, right? This is what we want to do. Okay, so right, so let me create my dictionary. Okay, so what I will do is I will define a dictionary. Okay, let me say my dictionary as the form uh, form data, right? Easy. And then I define it like this. This is my dictionary, and dictionary is a key value base. I will simply paste it here. So this is the exact dictionary that I will send. But that I know that uh, the key value pairs are basically strings, right? So I mean it could be normal numbers, but here obviously these look like strings, so they should be a string, right? So all of them would be a string. Okay, string. Now, what else I can see is that all of them should be separated by a comma. Okay, obviously, without that doesn't make sense. And let me just do it like this, right? So right now I have a data variable, which is basically the form data, which is sent which is sent to the server every time I press submit, right? So if I could somehow in my own user agent, which is this Python, I could send this, then I'm done, right? So my final response, which will have the data, should have when I send. In fact, this one is also a string, right? And these also. All of these should be a string. Sorry, forgot to specify these. But all of the data that you send to the server are strings. Okay, all of them. So you will convert all of them into string. And this particular one, what I will do is, in fact, I already have a variable called CSR token. It's holding exactly this. So I will say CSRF token, right? Now here I don't need to put it in quotes because it's a variable and rest of them are strings, right? So I hope this makes it clear. If I just print my form data for you to see, right? You can see that I'll just you can see that my form data is a is a is a dictionary, right? With proper values, right? RO6 and blah blah blah. Okay, so now if I send my request to the server saying session.post, this time I want to post, right? Post what? Post on some URL and then some data. So what it says is that either you can send some data along with the URL, and that's what we exactly want to do. So we will say session.post this URL. Let me just define it here and say my my um, the data source link. And my data source link, I'll say URL equal to this, right? Or this. Just I will have to copy it from the notes. Anyway, so my URL is this, and then I can get my URL, right? I'll just put it like this. And this time, again, my request headers will be something. This time my CSI token will be something, and then uh, yeah, my URL, right? And wait, let me see that since I did the whole thing again, my CSR token has changed or not, right? It has changed because I made one more new request. Okay. But anyway, because this is a user agent now, this is not a browser that you are working with, right? You are working with Python. So every time it sends a new request, right? New request, as in it creates a new session and then sends a request. A new CSRF token will be sent to the server. Anyway, let's proceed further. What I was saying is that now I can post my query, right? I can post my URL to the URL and then the data equal to what? My form data, right? That my form data. Here what it says. Param URL is fine. The data, right? There is something data which says there is no basically data as such defined here, but basically it says that something to send in the body of type request. Okay, so basically you object to send in the body of class. Okay, right. So I will just if I did something like this and then I said print my response dot text. Okay, I will see that this time it took some time because it's again requesting something. But this time what happened is that I got something, right? And then this one is exactly what is available there on the website. Okay, so I can see quickly if I wanted to glance. I can see that I am getting data for 28 of, right? This is exactly what I sent here. If I just quickly change it to 27, right? 27 here, and then send the request. Sorry. What I will see now is that this time I have some data which is let me just put it, which is of 27, right? So I mean, it was so easy for, I mean, for me to do this, right? I could just change the date. In fact, I can change the from hour to hour, but I will not change it right now, right? Because all I want to change is the delivery date and from date and delivery to date, right? So I made it very easily dynamic, right? But let's say, I wanted to do it for 3 dates, right? So let me just create my dates, right? So I'll just say date, okay, date to get, right? Date to get, something like this. And I will just specify 3 variables there. I will say 2020, right? 28 and 26, 26, 2020, 08, 27. Right. This is again, I'm hard coding. You could pass it from outside using something, but for illustration purposes, I'm just hard coding it. And then 28. Right. So 3 days of data I want to get. Okay. So in fact, I wanted to get last 3 days, right? So 27, 28, and 29. So this is my data set, right? Here, what I could say now is that data to get, data to get, and then zeroth one. Again, here also I could say data to get dot zeroth one, because again I could do a loop, right? But for again illustration purposes, I'm just showing you how easy it is, right? If you just wanted to change it to the current date, right? The last one. So you could do something like this, and then if I just send the request again, some error. So it says some issue here. It says that data to get not defined because date to get. Okay, it's not data to get. So again, so now I can say once I get the response that this time my data has the values which for which date, which date, where it is, as for 29th, because I was asking for 29th of data. Okay, so I hope this makes sense and is clear to everyone. You could certainly do all of what we are doing in a loop to each of that, but we will do it alone, single, right? So we will send it. I just gonna copy this. So currently, what happened here, right? What happened is that you have now a something, right? Response.text. Okay, so I'll just say. In fact, I can just say it here, right? Response.text, because my response. I mean, this particular thing is response, right? And I'm doing dot text, so I can do it here itself. So my response is now here, right? I'll just say response for the third one, right? Because this is my for my third one. So I'll just copy it once and paste it. I'll just run it once. Sorry. And the second one where I get the 0th one, like the first one. Okay, so this would be my request one. All right, 1, 2, 3 we have. So request one. So I mean, you can see it is so easy, right, for me to just change these values, and then I will have data for different dates, right? Obviously, certainly, till now I only have the data in this format, right? And the next step would be to just get this data out. Right? It should be easy, but uh, let's see it here. This is done, and then my last one is response two. Okay, that one is just one, first one, and then I have now three responses which have data for all of those three dates in what format? HTML format, right? So let us quickly now extract the data from there. So my extraction thing is simple. Again, I will do that same thing. What I will do is I will just try to inspect this page, and I will come here and will find this, and I'll see that there is some table, right? There is some table, and we have already seen this a few times in last few lectures, that how to get data from table. I can see a table which has some t head, and then uh, I mean, yeah, that T head is all this headings. I mean, as I proceed, you can see that it's something that comes here also. Okay. So, and then we have this T head, and after that, there is another, class called data tables body, in which there is one more table, and that table has a T head, right? That T head is nothing, maybe something, okay, something, but it's not visible there. That's okay. That is not of our use, which is not visible. But we have some P body, which has all of these rows. Okay. So if I could somehow reach till here, I would be able to get it. All right. So, okay. So let us see now how powerful Beautiful Soup is for to allow us to extract something like this. Okay. So what is my first thing, right? I can see that there is something here, right? A class. First thing I will always want to find is if there is some ID, because IDs are unique. So I can if find something by ID, that would be a unique thing. Generally, it could be, but in a general, I mean, in modern web design, it is supposed to be only one. Okay. But anyway, classes can be more. So I'll say that ID is not there, so there is a class. So I think this is my only identifier, right? There could be more. This particular style could be my identifier, or this role of grid could be my identifier. But since I'm not sure, let me try and check and do a few things to see if I'm on the right path, right? So if I'll do, right, this I think I've shown you once. So I just did a clear because those errors which you were seeing here are coming from the website side. Okay? That's it. That's okay. Not a problem. But not a problem for you, maybe for the website, but not you. So in console, what I will do, I will try to inspect that. What I did was I took out this particular class, right? And then I want to check if this is the only one or there are others, right? There are others here. So what I can do is I can say document, in fact, I'll say just, var tables. Tables is equal to document dot get elements by class name, right? So in this, I pass my class, right? And then what it says, my tables, right? Tables is my HTML collection, and it says you have two tables on the page. In fact, it says, uh, you know, it says one is here and other one is the only the header. Basically, you have only two tables on the page, right? Length two. So what you can do, you can see that in the first one you have only headers, right? So I mean, I could define my own headers, right? I don't need to exactly scrape it from there. This is again a strategic choice for you, right? If you know that these headers will never change, what you could do is you could define it or hard code it in your code itself, right? Then you will not need to scrape it, because scraping obviously can be complex, and if tomorrow this position or this tag changes, they start keeping it in a div tag, then your script will fail, right? So you want minimum failure, right? So, but again, you have to make a conscious decision that these will not change, ever change, right? So I'll just make that conscious decision that these will never change for now, right? In the next some time, I have some information regarding that, right? Not exactly, I'm just assuming, okay? I'm just giving you my assumptions that it will not change, okay? And then what I do, I define my what? I define my, let's say, headers, okay? Headers, and I call it this one, right? These ones. But obviously, these are not in a proper format, so I will just format them once. Okay? I'll just say something like this, right? Get all of that and just do this so that those are recognized well. Okay? Just one, right? And then obviously a comma is also needed here, so I'll just put that as well. So now I've taken a conscious decision that the headers are not going to change, and now this is very simple for me to manage. Right, I can change it here itself. Right? But my one of the problems is resolved. What I would have to do is get the this. In all of these responses, I will have to first search for that header and then get it. So I got it directly, right? Let me just get it. So my headers are okay now. So after this, only my data is left, right? Only these. I'm sorry, guys. Just a second. Just have to drink some water. Yeah. Sorry. So I have already, bypassed one of them, and then only my second one is left. Now see this trick here. If I do tables and then do one first one, right? That's my table. That's exactly what I want, in which all the data is there. So something like that, I have to employ a strategy, right? So I can get something by class. Okay. So I'll just say this one. Right? I'll just copy it. So I have already seen in selling my beautiful soup thing that how to get this, right? Very easy. What I can say is that I first want to I want to get it from each of the responses, right? From each of the responses. So I will just, let's say, response underscore one, right? And from that, what I will do again, find all, right? Simple. Find all what? Find all a table, right? A table with a class. So I'll again pass a dictionary with a class and then say this one. So what it gives me is all of the tables on the response one page, right? I'll just call it, and then I could see that whatever tables that I will be passed back, this will be an iterable, right? I hope this is clear to everyone. We have already bypassed my zeroth one. Okay, my zeroth one I have defined as headers myself, and only first one is left. So I'll just say first. Okay, so my first one now, this was an iterable, right? My first one will contain the actual data table. So I'll just say actual data table, right? Data table one, easy, right? This is my first data table, and then in fact, yeah, that's it. Secondly, my second data table will be similar. So I'll just let me define it here only, right? Again, same thing and same thing. But this time again, responses will be different. So my response to and response to, from different responses, we are trying to find that. Okay. So now if I just run it, I will have three data tables. String object has no. So yeah. So right. So why this does not work is because we have not even you know initialized my beautiful soup object. So how would it be able to get it right? So before that, what I will do is that let me just what I will do is that I will say my soup one, right? Soup one equal to what? Beautiful soup, and I will pass my response, right? Response. Okay, easy. Again, this thing I have to do three times. Okay, so my soup two, right? And my soup three. Okay. response 2, and then response 3, right? So I have 3 responses. Now I can find from these soups my exact elements, right? I hope why the error came and how it is being resolved is clear, is getting clear. Again, listed this out of range. So it says that you have nothing, which is like a table and has a class, something like this, right? So it could not find it. Okay, and it could not find it maybe because maybe I'll have to do all of these things again. One of the bad things about this notebook, I mean, it is not really recommended for something like web scraping because then you have to do all of those stuff again and again, right? So I'll just quickly do that. And so all of this is done, and here also it is done, and here something will throw an error, but that's fine here because I have not given any. I have um, anyway. In fact, let's take a better approach. Right? So what I can say now, I have 3 objects, right? And those three will contain my responses, right? Already they have it. So uh, that's it. And now what I could do is that soup1 dot find all, right? Soup1 dot find all, right? And find all what tables, right? Let me just get this one and see what it has, right? So uh, print, right? There is nothing called tables in soup1. Okay, so basically what has happened is that uh, something is going wrong such that in the response that you have, where is my response one, this one, this is not having anything which corresponds to a table, right? So there is having some issues. Let me see what are those issues are coming. So what I can do is I can directly print the response, right, to see what those issues are. So if I do soup1 dot prettify, I can see that my soup has data, right, and that data is uh, is for which date is for 27, and that is great. I mean, 27th is my first date, so it has this, but somehow it is not able to find it, right? So it is not able to find it, right? So why it is not able to find it is because there is nothing called tables which is directly a child of the main tree, right? So I mean, in the last lecture, last session I had explained that these nesting, you have to traverse through this tree to actually get till here. Okay, so that traversing itself requires you to find those elements on which you will traverse, right? The first, I mean, basically, you will have to first find this, and then in that only you can find this table, right? But there is one more way, which is you can directly get this class, right? So this class, so this class has all the headers which I don't want, and then there should be one more class, right? This class itself uh, has the data, so I can just copy this class and then say soup dot find all, soup1 dot find all, right? And then this time I can say table, right? Table and then class, okay? Class equal to this one. Okay? Now if I print it, I can see that I have a table printed, right? So I have a table inside of another table, okay? One table and one more table, and then that thing has just
that thing has some data inside it. Okay, let me bring it on the top. I know this is a bit difficult to inspect, but this is the only way to inspect, right? So I can see that there is some table. Okay, so there is some iterable which is returned back by this, and inside that we have some tables, right? And I think there is only one table that we have, right? So one and then right only one. So what I can do is if I just do a print zero, right, zero, and then print, what I will see that I have directly printed the tag. Wait, let me just. I know this is a bit difficult to inspect because here it is not printing well, but I can see that now it's not a list, it's directly a tag, right? And from a tag, what I could do, I could find other elements, right? That's what exactly what I want. Okay, so I want the body from this table, right? This tag. So let me just define it, data table one. I hope this is clear to everyone why we did something like this. Okay, so find all, right? Data table one, I have got my data table one. Okay, similarly, data table two will be there and data table three will be there. Now I will not have any issue. What I was doing is that I was referencing one and there was no one, so that's why it was throwing an error. But here I have only one element that is at the zeroth position, so I have got it. So now I have three objects, data table 1, data table 2, data table 3. All of those three contain my data, right? Now what I can do, I can again traverse over it and I can find over it. So I could just say my P body 1 and say data table 1 dot find all again. Find all what? Find all my P body, right? P body. Okay. And then since I have only one P body, right? What I could do either zero, right? Or I could just say data table dot P body, right? And in that P body, what do I have? Let me just check it here. I have in this that P body, what do I have? I have TRs, right? So many TRs, right? So what I will do, I can now say find all and say TR, right? So I will have all my TRs here, but this TR has some specific thing, right, called row. I could do a class, but then I would, that would be split into two parts. But I have something common such that I can get all of it. So role equal to row, and that's what I could pass. I could say role equal to row, right? So this is my identifier here. Okay. So now let's see what happens. Now my T body. T body 1, in fact, table TRs1, TRS1. Okay. These are table rows from the first response. Okay. So if I just print my TRs now, TRS1, what I can see is that it's empty. Right. So some issue again here. Right? I'm sorry. We're not getting the desired result. Just getting some cough because I don't know, just started. Anyway, so TR and then row is equal to row, which it could not guess or get, right? So what I could do is that I could just find TRs first and then see what they could do for me. So I'll just say TRS1, right? Now this time it gave me a list of TRs, right? There are basically uh, some, I mean, it's there, right? It's there. Okay, TRs. So something here, one, and then that's it, right? So one row was printed only. Only one row was printed, and which is surprising, right? Why did only one row print? Right? There are definitely more number of rows in this data. Okay, so why only one got printed? That we will just check. Okay, so what happens is that maybe this particular thing, what it returns is that it returns only my first year, so it might not be a grade 2. Okay, so what I will do is my get it with my old way, which says
in this table find T body, right? And since there is only one T body, I will find 0. That will be my tag. And then in that I can do find all, right? And then in that I can say TR, right? And now if I check my TRS, I can see that again it's just 1. Why is it only 1? Or maybe there are more. Let's see. Doesn't look like, right? Only 1 it seems. All right. Maybe again some problem here. So what can we do for this? So basically it gave me a TR with nothing, right? It should have something. So maybe I am not able to find the TR that I want. Okay, that might be one issue, right? So in the TR, obviously I have something here, 28 and then 0015. But here what I can see is that 27 0015 and then 1, and then I have got nothing else, right? It just finishes at 105, right? And then nothing else. So let's see why this issue is coming in the first place, because this issue should not come, right? So let us just see. Here I have all of these are fine. It looks fine to me, right? So we have some TR, right, with some class, and then there are a lot of TRs, and then the T body ends, right? This was this has all of those headers. Maybe if I check, there is some division, and that is my header as well. So, but I don't want that. I want my table rows, and that is giving me some issues, right? It is not exactly giving me what I want. So so let me just, in fact, let us debug this code once. So it gives me find all T body, right? So it now here I can see that it is giving me 96 rows, which is not a problem, right? Now I have 96 rows, but in that I might be getting some issue, right, in this particular one. If I see and further inspect it here, I can see that I have a T body, right? And in that T body I have a TR, right? TR, and then I have after 1 something data I have 2, right? But that 2 again does not start from a TR, right? And that is a big issue, right? That is the issue. I mean, why we are not able to get it, right? This TR finishes here, and then the TR does not start, right? And then at the end I can see that, you know it does not start, right? It just ends it there. So let me inspect more, and then I will be able to understand better from a scraping perspective, right? TD, all of them is TD, and then just this thing, right? So it starts from here, but before that there's a TD, right? And then, so I have to devise some strategy to somehow, get these, and then I will have to do my own data manipulation to, split those rows, right? That would make sense. So let me just go here and ask it to find all TRs, right? To find, in fact, wait, let me just inspect once more. So it has a T body inside, there is a TR, and then there are continuous list of TDs until until the end, right? Until you find a T body. Okay. So that is it. I mean, that is the maximum we could inspect it, right? So what after this? We only want to find the TDs. Okay. I don't know why there is some issue with this response. It should have been straightforward. Basically, all of the rows should have been extracted from the data, right? But what happens here is that uh, there is some issue here. Okay, so anyway, so let us get our T body, and then let us try to find all, right? Find from the T body, there is only 0th element. So I'll just print it once and see now what I have. So I have now a simple T body, right? And you can understand how difficult, or sometimes it is, even these small things can get you stuck, right? So in that T body there is one tr, and then there is nothing, there that says here the tr ends, right? So and then there is nothing else which can give me the, I mean, which can tell me that there is other stuff. Okay, so here the tr ends, and then after that there no tr starts, and then after that it's a different story altogether. Okay, so that is it. I think what we will do is that we will get the first one. So we will say the from 0th one find all tr, right? Find all tr, and then we will have only one tr, right? And inside that tr we will have some tds, right? But if I find my tds, right, my td, what it will give me is that all the list of my tds, right? But it will give me till 96, right? And from the start, if I see, it says that I have started from this one, right? So in that, if I could ignore my first one, right, and then only find the td ones, right, I would get it. Okay, I will have all my table tds, but I will have only one problem, that I will have to later manipulate it, but that's okay. I mean, these are all the things that you have to go through and devise a strategy that how you would want to do it. So I'll just say tds1, right? I'll just say tds1, and that will have all my TDs. So I'll just copy it and paste it here and paste it here. So I will have now 3 TDs, which has all my table. What TDs are basically this one, this one. This is basically a cell. TD is a cell, right? Each of these cells contain one data. Okay, one data. That's fine. So that's it. We have 3 of them, and we have got all 3 of them. So what our next step will be, since we have got my data, what I have to do is only extract it, right? So if I could say that get me all my, let's first get all the text, right? And then we could manipulate it, because obviously after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? After every 7 numbers, I will have to split it, and then the next row will start, right? Because ultimately right now all of this data has come along, right? I have no way to I mean, there is no table row separation, right, in which my data is coming. Obviously it looks like here, but in my response it is not there. So even something like this could happen. But anyway, let's proceed further. I'll say tds1, right? So this is my iterable now. What I want from each of them, I just want a text, right? And then append it to something. So I mean, I don't want, let's not append it. In fact, create a list comprehension where I could say that get me td.text, right, from for I in fact for td in tds1, right? This is what I can do. So what this will give is, this will give me a list of all of those numbers, right? So all of those numbers. So what I can say, I can call it my data one, right? This is my data one. And if I just quickly print it,
and see if I have got the correct data. I can see that, yeah, something is looking out here. Something. But there are a lot of extra line characters and something which might be, which might, cause me troubles, right? But apart from that, there is, I mean, it seems okay. Anyway, let me just quickly replace it and see, because this is stupid. Right? It doesn't allow me to see that what exactly is happening there. So I'll just say this one to this, and then dot replace again from the string, right? And say this particular thing to again us something, right? Nothing. So if I printed this now, let's see. List object has no attribute of replace, right? Because okay, because that's a text thing, right? So I'll just have to do it here. Now if I print my data one, I'll see that okay, those things were gone, right? Those things are now gone. Okay, only my data is left, right? But still there are some issues here, right? Because there are a lot of white spaces I can see, but you can see that still the data we have got it. So now what we can do, right? But before that, let us get our data from all of those, and then that would be our final thing, right? So we will have data 1, data 2, data 3 from all of those links. I can say TDS 1, 2, and 3. So I just run it. I will have now 3 iterables, data 1, data 2, data 3, which are lists, which will be having all the data that I want. Okay. So I hope this is clear until now, everyone. Okay. Dev, क्या हाल है? बढ़िया समझ में आ रहा है? I'll just take a pause actually.
Good going.
ठीक है ना? So let me just pause for a minute and get some water.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, everyone back. Okay. So now, I mean, we could do different stuff, but I will try a few things, and that should work. Mm, I think we are already scraping this website in our system. I will show that as well. But for now, I think we are using a very different technique that what we have used in scraping this data from for our own system that we have made for PXL. Right? But let's see this approach as well. Okay. So for right now, what I have this data 1, data 2, and data 3 variables contain lists. Right? If I just if you want to see my data 3 once again,
and take some decision based on that. I can see that this is something printed here. All of that data is printed here. The only issue is that there is no separation, right? I mean, all of them are just separated using a comma and nothing else, right? So I will have to devise some strategy to bring it back into the format that I want, right? So this is my first entry, right? And this is my second entry, right? And accordingly my third entry, fourth entry, so on. But I can see that after one, right, two, three, okay, three, and then four, right, some values, okay. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. After 8 values, my mm, my things reappear. Basically, it has 8 columns and it has 96 rows, right? So if I could somehow convert this list into that, that would be great, right? So let us try a very different approach. Import numpy as np, and then what I would say first, I would say np.array, right, and then data one, and then I can say reshape, right? Reshape it to what? 96 rows and 8 columns. Let's see what it gives. So it gives me a d-type array, right? But what happened was that each of my things was now converted into a list, right? And that is very nice, right? Now I have a list of lists which I could use. So if I just say it as a list, right, I would get it back. So this is a very different approach to what we generally do. Now that we have done a substantial amount of data manipulation, I think this should make sense. What we are doing is that we are taking the data one, and we know that it has 96 into 8 elements, right? All I'm asking is to convert 96 rows of that data and 8 columns. So accordingly, what it will do is that after every eight elements that it finds, it will just convert it into a list, right? Because I mean, every row of a list is basically one row, right? Every entry in a list of list is basically one row, right? So this is what it will do. If I just call it and say that my export data one equal to this, and let me quickly I've already got my pandas, right? So let me just quickly export it and see how it actually looks, right? So I'll just say pd.tocsv, right, and call it call what csv may have to pass something, okay. So let me just check what to pass. Sorry. So to CSV, we want to pass this one, maybe. Let's see. This one. And then here, I forgot actually. pd.tocsv. Basically, I just want to quickly convert it to a into a file to see if my data that I'm trying to export is fine or not. Okay, it's asked for a path, and then it basically asks for data, right? I can see the data. So data frame.tocsv, right? So that's it. So I can now say that uh, I can convert into a data frame and say pd.data frame, right? Frame, and from a list I can create a data frame. I hope this is fine. And then I can say export data one, and I can say export data one dot to CSV, right? And here I can pass a one. So I can say just exported one dot CSV. Right. So now I will be exporting some data, but let's see how it looks like, right? So it did not give me any error. Basically, it exported. So here I can just, if I refresh, refresh, I see that exported 1.csv is here. If I download it, I can see that my exported 1.csv is basically a CSV file with the I mean only the data right now. It will not have headers because we did not do that much of data manipulation, but we will see quickly. So basically I have it, right? I have my data here, right? Which has some columns 0, 1, 2, 3, something, something, right? Okay. So, but it did not export what I wanted. Okay, some issues here, right? Some values it did not. In fact, it printed it. It is not visible. Okay, let me just do something like this. Okay. So now what has happened is that uh, it it basically has something, okay, something here, some space that it is using. Okay, so this is one issue that we have, and then I mean rest other things that is fine, right? Rest all of the other data that we have. Okay, so this might be something uh, uh, which uh, which we can see and remove, but I mean that's not the focus of my our lecture, right? But let's quickly try it. Still, let's try it, and maybe we would be able to do that. It may not be possible due to this, right? But we will see, okay, if this works or not, right? Maybe this will work, maybe this will not work, so we will just check. Okay, now if I just download it again and see if something has changed, right? What I can see now is that basically nothing much changed, right? Actually, nothing changed. So, uh, I mean, you could see, right? You could obviously do something to, uh, I mean, remove this. What basically happens here is that if you just select it right here, I select it. I see that there is some white space that is coming. Okay, so you can. I already removed those characters, but it's still getting these white spaces, right? So not all of them have these white spaces, but a few of them have these white spaces. Okay. So again, let me just try one more thing. Okay, I'll just remove these spaces using one more method. I'll basically remove these spaces at all. Okay, I'll just say that remove the space. Maybe this should remove it. But you're getting what I'm trying to do. That is the main thing. That is the important part. Okay, I'll just export it once more, and this time I'll see that if it has actually done something for me. Uh, just opening. Just close this one, and that is opening, and see that I was able to do it. So basically the issue was spaces, which was very simple thing, but our matlab, we were not able to comprehend it well. Basically what was happening is there was a lot of spaces, and I replaced all of those spaces with nothing, right? So this worked. Okay, now I can see that the same thing I can do for all of my exported data, right? Easy, 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 easy. Okay, so I'll just do exported 2 and exported 3, right? Not exactly, I would want to do this obviously, but before that, here, what has happened is that this only contains my values. What I actually want is to have those headers as well, right? So I had created this header, and since this header is same for everyone, what I could simply do is I could say headers, right? Headers plus this one. So what this would do, it would join all of those, both of those together, right? As a simple one, okay? So I'll just copy it and just paste it here. Right? Paste it here, paste it here. What it will now do is that I don't have 96 rows now, I have 97 rows because one of my rows is now the header itself, right? So I would want it to reshape into 97 into 8, right? So now if I check and run it, obviously this did not run because this had to be run first. So I ran it, and then now I ran it, right? This ran, so no issues. Now if I just quickly exported data one, export data one, I want to check, right? I'll see that now I have a proper something like this, but it's giving me something, right? I want this one as header and not these ones. Okay, so there are some issues. What I will do, I will go back. So this all is part of my basically um, data manipulation, and I am doing some hit and trial to see what would work best, right? And here what I saw is that when I was creating my data frame itself, I could maybe have called something called this, right? Index columns, right? There's something called columns, and it says that you could pass a column as index or array like stuff, right? Something, okay. So what I would say my call name, call, what it says, just a second. It says columns, okay, columns. So I'll just say column columns equal to headers, right? Headers. So if I just put it at every place and get my data back to the form it was, right? It was 96 into 6, right? So 96 into 8, right? I'll just run this and run this. And now if I see my exported data, I will be seeing that now it has proper these things, right? But there is one more thing right here, but let's touch it. Now what I could easily do is export it. I have three datas and I want to export it into three sheets. So what I could say that first I could say, in fact, let me check what I could do all of the stuff, right? So I could say dir dot to Excel, right? That is my function which gives me that functionality, right? To Excel. Uh, just a second. To Excel. Okay. Now my to Excel function has some attributes, and I cannot use actually any of that. Okay, those are internal attributes. But that's fine. I could say that export data one dot what dot as sorry dot to Excel, right? Excel. And then when I do this, I will get my options. It says first give me Excel writer, right? Basically the data frame on which writes object to write a single necessary to create target file name, right? So basically it wants a file name and specify a sheet to write it to. So you will ask for a sheet, and then you already have the data frame here. So I mean nothing more you have to do. Okay? So what you can say is that export data one. In fact, not export data one. It already is there, right? You are already exporting it. Okay. So Excel writer. So you will say a file name and call it pxil dash, right? Dash dot xlsx, and then you would say sheet name, right? Sheet name equal to, I'll say my first one, right? So my first one was my date list, right? Date. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was date to get. Okay. So date to get, and from that my zeroth one. Okay. So my zeroth one was that, and similarly I can just copy paste it three times, right? Easy. One, first one, and then second one. That's it. So my sheet names will be my date names, and then all of them will contain the correct data. So I'll just run this and then see what happens. I have something here, refresh. I have pxi dash.dax .xlsx. If I download it and see that what it has, it basically should have my data. So let's see what it has. So it has, but it has only 29 because we were not attentive and exported the same data twice, right? So I'll just export each of them differently. Just copy it here and paste it. So what I was able to do again is that refresh it and then download it. Right, this time it should have the correct data, but you get the idea, right? I mean, here only I could see that my data again some issues. So we'll just check what the issues are. Might be something due to your non-attentiveness, maybe. To Excel, okay. I'll just ask it that if there are other things as well. So it says that columns none, headers to, index to, engines none, right? So any wrap none. So something it should say that what all that you want to give it, right? So I'm not able to find it, right? That what should be the way to write multiple sheets, okay? So uh, index something it has given, and then something it says that you can do, okay? But here it says that you have some, you can give it some sheet name, right? And then sheet name something else, right? Something else, okay? So what it says is that you give me a writer object, okay? Writer object. So I don't know what writer is, right? So it says that you could do something like this. You could define a writer, Excel writer as writer, and then do all of those things, right? So I can just say my writer. Okay, here I can say my writer, writer equal to this one, right? And in fact this one, okay. So now I can just pass my writer to here, right? Because all it is asking is basically a writer object, which allows it to do that stuff. Okay. Now let's see again what happens. Okay. Again, I'll just, if I run it, this time again it ran, refresh, I'll just download it again. Should be some error. Okay, I feel that there should be some error, but let's again see. I can see again there is some error. Again, it only write the 27th data, okay, and then for 96 rows for 27, and then it just uh, did not do the others. So some issue again. So what exactly happens now is that my object, I'll just delete them, close all of them once. So my object, as it was saying, should be a uh, some object that is basically uh, basically has a scope, right? So what I could say that pd.excel writer with, right, as writer, right, with as writer. What I could do is I could do all of these three stuff under that, right? Now my writer is saved. What was happening is that I had defined a writer, but it was only available till here, and then something else happened. So I want that writer to be like this, and then do this, use that particular writer for all of the other stuff. Okay. So if I just now do it and then refresh it and now download it and then see this part. Okay. Now I can see that there are three sheets. Three sheets which has my data that I wanted correctly, but my index are wrong. Again, here it should be from 1 to 96. So what I could say was that simply columns equal to headers here, and then here I could say index index equal to 1 to 96, right? That's all I want. 1 to 97 in fact, because 96 wala it would not be taken. So I'll just copy it. I'll just paste it here. I'll just paste it here, and then that's it. Okay. Now 1 to 97 did not work like this because maybe it will take a range, right? So again, these are like trial and error stuff which you can obviously do and see if it works or it doesn't work. All of that is, I mean, because you will never remember all of this, right? You will have to do some trial and errors to actually get to this point, right? and now it ran, right? I'll just refresh and then again download it. This should be my final version, right? So if I just downloaded it and see, uh, now this one is my perfect. Again, start from zero because I don't know. Let's see, starts from zero, all of them. Again, some issue. So again, some error. I will see what that is. Right, might be some issue here. Index equal to this range. It should be fine, but it's not working well. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe something. Change index. Change index in d dot to Excel. To Excel. I'll just So if I do a Google search like this, it will give me the basically a Stack Overflow link, which is generally useful for me. So I'll just let me put it here without row names. So it says I don't want row names. Okay, that is exactly what our requirement is. So it says index equal to false. So it did not need to do so much, right? All you had to do was index equal to false. But and then we already see that we already have the slot number. So I don't actually need this particular column. So I would just say index equal to false. So obviously, even if you're getting stuck somewhere, I mean, most of this code, I have enough experience that right now I know. I mean, I remember all of this because of practice, right? So I don't need to search for all of those things each by each one by one. I can see my documentation here only, right? And do some of the stuff, take cues, right? But if am getting stuck, that's fine. I can just do a Google search. So now, after so much of effort, let's see if my final thing is exactly what I wanted. So now my thing is exactly what I wanted, and awesome. So this is what I wanted to do. This is what my main issue was. Obviously, I could do something with these formats and well, but that is out of scope of our session. I think we have been able to do till now is good enough, right? So I think this was clear to everyone how we did it. Okay. Now, obviously, you could do your analysis, do some total and all like this through data manipulation, right? Total, put the total here for all of it, right? Easy enough. We have shown you. I have shown you. If I wanted to show you once again, I'll just show you quickly, right? Since it's the data frame, what I could do is that export data one, right? Data one has a column, right? A column, which column it is? It has, let's say, slot number. Let's say I want to sum the slot number. So, in fact, let me just check if that is what. Right? It's basically object. It's not even a number, right? Slot number is not a number. So first I will have to convert it, right? So I'll say dot slot. I say slot number, right? And this one is basically some. I mean, basically D type object. It's not a number, right? So I will just convert it to a number, right? So I'll just say since it is a something, right? I'll just convert it to a list, and then my list on which I can iterate. So I can say a map function, and that map function has a lambda function. That lambda has x, and that x it just converts it into an integer, and it passes an iterable like this. So this, and then this I can again sum it, right? I can sum a list, so I just say list, and then on that list I can put a sum, right? So I hope the construct what we are trying to do is pretty clear to everyone. So I'll just save this and save this, right? This one is okay. Here we are at the correct one. Here we are at the correct one. Here we are at the correct one. Right? So all of it is good. So I can see that my sum now for 5, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6. If I just quickly wanted to glance over it, I can just see. that my count is 96, but enable editing and just sum it once. Just to give a, I mean, never added it, but uh, in fact, some of these are not even numbers. So first, I will just convert it to number, right? Because the number was not exported as a number, so we had to convert it there. But now if I sum it, right, and see what's the sum is, see, I can get the same number, 4656. So I was able to do something to get that, right? And then I can assign it to my another variable. I could just say that export data one, and then say something like slot sum, right? Slot sum, another this one, and pass it this one, right? What would happen if I just again did not do this here, but did it here, right? What would happen now is that I'll just do this, I'll just do this, and do this, and do this, right? What will now happen is that if I just refresh and get my data, this time it should have one more column and uh, right slot sum. Okay, and it would be only in this because we only exported it to export one. Okay, export data one. So now I mean you could see that it was easy for someone, I mean us to do data manipulation and export our files and do any kind of thing that we want. So I hope you were able to grasp this. बताओ भाई Dev and Srikar, whatever was explained, is it understood? Was it intuitive and understandable? Hello Dev, hello Srikar. अच्छा देव तुम्हारा माइक बंद है. हाँ Srikar, चलो great great. तो अब कर पाओगे? Will you be able to do it now? What I mean, such kind of things now you should be able to do it, right? Okay. So anyway, let us proceed. I think we have done it. Okay. So we were able to learn that how to where it is, how to do form driven pages, right? I think it should be fairly clear to everyone. Okay. We requested the server, required payload params. We inspected the response to identify relevant tags. We saw that the tags which were seen on the web page were different than what we got in the response. I have no idea how it happened, right? I mean, but it was there, so you had to devise some strategy to inspect it and parse it, and then extract the required data, and then finally you could save it. Next thing is the core of all of this, right? In fact, I mean, whatever we have learned till now in the web scraping part can be all automated using this particular tool, which is called Selenium. Okay, so Selenium is a web automation tool. In fact, I will just quickly show you. If I just search Selenium Python, right? What it will do is give me some Selenium docs. Okay, and it says that if I go to introduction, it says that it provides bindings, a simple API to write functional acceptance tests using Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so it is generally used as a testing tool. Okay, whatever testers are there, which are testing sites, generally use Selenium to automate all of the user interaction that any general user will do on their website, and accordingly they write their test cases, right? So if you could automate web, right, you could simply fetch the source of that web page, right? Uh, so let's say someone is going to make my trip and clicking those, I mean, whatever links that we are clicking, and then it comes to the fare summary. Uh, I mean, that's kind of a web automation, right? If a make my trip guy had to write test cases that, if I click here, 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 and then I click here, if that value is actually visible there or not. They will have to write a test case, right? And Selenium actually provides that way. Okay, Selenium automates all of that stuff. Okay, so exactly, the Selenium is not for web scraping, but it's just that you can do anything you want, such that to get the DOM that you finally require to scrape will be only you will only get after you have done some sort of interaction, right? So that interaction is automable, and that is what Selenium will do. Okay. It also says that it allows you to access all of the functionalities of Selenium WebDriver in an intuitive way. So Selenium WebDriver is something else. Okay, it's basically another software. Okay, which is a collection of open source APIs which automate the testing of a web application, right? So, and it is basically maybe written in Java, right? But it has APIs for Python, and this is exactly what we are seeing, right? So we install it, and then there are some drivers, right? You have to install a driver as well, right? And then when there are the stuff, it's just downloading instructions here, right? But I mean, once you've downloaded, only thing you have to do actually is to install Selenium. It will be downloaded in your machine. But once you have downloaded, you have all the power of uh, of the web. Basically, you can automate it. Okay. So let's see how we can do that and proceed further. So Selenium is a web automation tool. It automates user behavior on websites. So whatever you do, Selenium could do it automatically. And it's powerful for scraping any nested level data. So basically, I mean, so for like 10 clicks, after 10 clicks only, you will get your data, right? And that those 10 clicks are not sending request to server, right? The link remains same. There is no page reload or something like that. So that level of nested level data, right, you would not get directly, right, in the DOM. So we have already discussed DOM, we have discussed page source, right? So for the sites that we just scraped, right, uh, form driven pages, they generally have data inside their page source itself. But pages which require user interaction and level of clicks to finally arrive at the nested level data that you want, right? For that, the data will not be in page source. It will be actually in DOM, right? The DOM and page source are same when the user interaction, there is no need for user interaction, right? I already showed you in one of those examples that my inspect element, when I was doing the inspect element, I was, changing, clicking those buttons of fair and all of that. My my DOM was actually changing, right? So based on my user interaction, my current, you can say, you can consider DOM as the current page source, like the real time page source. Okay, in the real time what exactly is going on the page, right? If there are more elements, if there are lesser elements, if you are deleting something, elements will be lesser. If you're adding something, elements will be more. So that is like your real time page source. Okay, your DOM is your real time page source. And always, 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 if you could somehow get the DOM, the real time page source, right, you would be able to parse it, and you will be able to scrape it and then store it and do whatever you want, right? That is there. So it is very powerful. It allows for scraping very complex websites. And I think the complex websites that we can scrape, we will see, right? So for example, our own website, I mean, if I just show you this website called dashboard.pagecell.in that we are generally using to get some reports, right? So what it does is that if I just let it load once, let me just let it load. If I just see the page source of this one, I can see that it's just, I mean, there is nothing on this page, which even shows me that where that this data is, right? I mean, there's basically nothing, but there is so much data on this web page. Where these all of these numbers go, right? If I had to scrape my own website, I mean, until I knew Selenium and you could do some. So, for example, I have something on this 10th page, right? I will have to click this 10, and only then I will be able to come here, right? Otherwise, I mean, there is no way for me. In fact, there is nothing in the page source for me to identify it, right? It might be in some of these files if I check. Uh, might be here, but it's stupid, right? I can't find it here, right? It's so even if it is there, there is no sense that I try to extract data from here. Okay. Might be making some sense, okay, because I can see some of those are here, damn planner, and then something is written, right? Something is there. But and in fact, there again I can find some data as well, right? Some data. But I mean, parsing this would be too much of an effort, and it would be a time waste, right? So what I actually want is this. If I inspect it, I want this particular thing where the actually data is available, right? I want this thing, and this is my DOM, right? The page source gave me nothing, right? This is my real-time page source, and it gave me something, right? If you just see and I press it here, URS, you will see that. I mean, if I just do it here, you can see that something changed here. I just do availability. It says that something happened, right? So this is my real-time page source, and the real-time page source is what I want. Okay, I want to get this, and into this I can scrape. I mean, I can parse this data and do anything I want. If I just wanted to get this, I would not have gotten it. Let me show you how. Let me just copy it and show you that if I made a simple request to this site and said that, let's say my dash response, and said requests dot get, like my normal method of fetching the data. Okay, I'll say just request https or http dashboard.pixel. If I do this and I check dash response dot text, right? This is how exactly we're getting the response. Now I see that, it's again that something which has no data. Right? Exactly this thing get printed here, and if I wanted to parse this thing, where did it go? This thing, it would not make sense. It would basically give me nothing. So what exactly want? You could see this is what we have been doing for any of the other sites, right? For now, until now, and all of them gave me the response, right? Here it gave me the response. Here also it gave me the response, but that response is useless for me, right? So what I want to get the DOM, right? The real-time response or the real-time page source. Okay, not exactly. That's not a, I mean, term real-time page source. I'm just trying to make you understand. Okay. So otherwise, it's basically DOM is a tree, right? This tree allows you to traverse these elements easily. Okay. But you can consider it the real-time page source. So now you have seen an example which which basically shows you that there are websites out there which are not easily scrapable. Okay, and one of that is our own website. Okay, that is not easily scrapable. But obviously, the developers, whoever will have made this site, uh, will have used some techniques, right? So if I just come to network tab and just do something like this, I can see that some request was sent, okay, and to dashboard.pxl.in, I can see that it's a normal request, right? And basically something has happened, some set cookie and all of those stuffs happened. So, but if I just come here and select some other, utility. Let's say I select Punjab, right? Punjab. So if I select Punjab, I can see that something has happened. Some link has been requested, right? And this particular link has been requested. So this is what has happened, right? What we are doing is we have created some APIs, right? So currently this is a public API. Obviously, it could have been private. If I go here and see, just wait for the response, right? I can see that this is basically a JSON response, right? Which is fetched by my website, and then my website then displays, extracts information out of all of these, and then shows it on my web screen, right? So obviously, I mean, we have used API, so you are able to see this, right? So I mean, you have got now an alternative of not using the Selenium because you already have an API, and you have seen that if I could uh,
just do request.get request.get and pass this link here, right? Just like this, okay, and call this, let's say, in fact, let's directly get the response, right? X or X. If I get here, and if I just directly print it, right? Print it, print it. I can see that now my request.get method was able to work properly, and this one gave me something, right? Some response was sent to me, and that response, looked like this. Looked like this. Okay. So this is like my API. So before even getting into Selenium, what we would try to see is how to fetch data from API, because that's a small topic. Okay. And generally, what would happen is on the sites, not generally, I mean, on the modern sites, modern pages which are recently, I mean, on the modern any web page, you will see something like this, right? Who want to expose their data to public, that they have used some APIs, okay? And those APIs basically serve the data to this front end, and this front end basically displays it in the format that it wants, okay? So we will first see this kind of site. But obviously, if you did not have this, right, we have coded it like this, that we have a separate endpoints from which we gather data. But suppose the developer of the website had not created something like this and was fetching data directly from the server, right, not through an API, then you would not have been able to see something like this. And then your only option would have been web automation, right, Selenium, you selecting, you coming, clicking this, selecting another utility, and then clicking here and then fetching this data, right? So the regular process would have been different, right? But now since I have direct API access, so I can directly read it. And let's try that. Okay. So this is my one. Okay. Where it is. This one I can see that I have already got it in some basically format, which is here, which is exactly the same as here. This page got, I mean, because that was a lot of data, so it got hanged. Right? That is fine. I'll just close it. But what I can see is that where it is. Just close all of these ones. It's creating some disturbance. Anyway, so coming back to here, I have something. If I just this dash JSON, right? This is dash JSON, which is sent back to me by the server, right? So how I could process it? Processing APIs from data is very simple, and let me just yeah. Yes, Ikra, tell me. Any issues?
No, 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 nothing.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll proceed. So just what you do, okay? So what I will do now? I have so I was saying that getting data from APIs are very easy, because APIs, what they do. I think we have seen one more one. Let's just see once, because I mean that would be helpful to us to understand all of these examples. Right? It says that here, let it open. Here it is basically something. I don't know if it link. It is not an API, right? I don't know where it is. So, okay, yeah. Okay. API. You do something like this, getting data from API requests. It directly gives you so many examples. So that is not what I want. I'll say API session, API request, and then I'll just get here once. What I want to show you is example of API. Okay. I've already seen our API, but
Let us see some other ones. JSON response, and here I have. So what API allows you is that you as a consumer, not as a developer, allows you to get data in this format, right? So you can see that there is a something dictionary kind of thing which has some keys and values, and then there is some again key. This key contains another dictionary, right? The value is dictionary, and in that dictionary there are more keys and values, right? So it is kind of a nested dictionary kind of format, and that's what like JSON is. You can just uh, safely assume it to be a nested dictionary. That's it, right? You have nested levels of dictionaries. Some of them are lists, right? Some of those are lists, kind of. So these are, I mean, you don't generalize it as Python objects, but they are very similar to Python objects, right? They are actually JavaScript objects. JSON means JavaScript object notation, right? Full form is JavaScript object notation. So JSON is, I mean, very similar to dictionaries, okay? So that is what I wanted to show you, okay? So now, what API allows you is that you can directly consume the data. You don't have to find something inside it, right? I mean, obviously you have to find it, but you don't have to first, extract this from this gibberish HTML or something else. You directly have something that you can consume. And Python, since allows you to do accessing easily from dictionaries, what you could do is just specify this key and then you will get this value, right? So it is very simple now. Okay, all I have to do is find a way for Python to recognize the JSON, right? So very easy. Let us proceed how we will do that. This is my dash JSON, my dashboard JSON object, right? And this dash JSON should be converted into my dictionary, right? And then I will be able to do my functions in Python. Very simple. I can just say, I will import my JSON module, right? To manipulate, to convert web response into dictionary, right? Into Python dictionary. So what it does, it allows you some functions, right? JSON dot I don't know, loads, right? Loads. Okay, JSON dot loads. What it does is if I see it, so something is written here. Uh, no need to understand it. Basically, it asks you for a response, and then it would do anything else that it wants. So what all you have to do here is that pass it dash, and I could call it my data, right? Data. So this is my data, or data dictionary maybe, data dic, right? So now if I just try to print my data dictionary, data dic, I can see that my dash JSON is not defined just because uh, I'll just do this once again. Okay. So this ran, and this also should run, right? This ran. Okay. So now there is no errors, but we can see the exact same response which we got here. But what happened is that this one was a string, right? And obviously we could not have done dictionary kind of stuff to a string. So we converted that text, right? That string, which was actually a JSON, into a dictionary in Python using, sorry, using JSON object, using JSON module, which has a method called loads, and that loads that text and converts into a dictionary, right? Now, let's say, I mean, now it is very easy. If I wanted to extract each of them, right, I could just do my, so my first key is demand, right? So if I could do this demand thing, right, like this, I could see that all of the rest of the stuff are gone, and only my demand will be printed, hopefully. Error, right? Error. So it says, I don't know what you're talking about. Why it is saying that? Let us inspect. But you get the idea, right? You have what? How many lines did you code? If you had a ready-made JSON, all you had to do was this, then this, and you have the dictionary. And then now, once you have the dictionary, it's up to you, right? You could do any kind of manipulation that you want. So it currently says something, right? Let me check the type so that I could confirm that it is a dictionary, right? Because only in a dictionary I can, yeah, it's a dictionary, right? So it should be able to allow me something like this data dict, and then obviously there was a demand, right? So I don't know why it is not printing. Key demand, some error, right? I don't know. Data dict has data dict has something like this. That is fine, right? That is not our concern. The concern is something else. I can easily see that something is happened here. So it says at my first level there is nothing called demand, so that is why it was throwing an error, right? It has something called table, right? So availability, and in that availability thing, I have basically a value, right? Which is not again. I mean, I can see it might be useful, but it might not be useful. So I'll just proceed further. I can see that here is something called data, right? Again, might be useful for me, might not be useful for me. What I want to get is demand, right? Only demand. Obviously, you could do all of these things, right? In fact, why to go in that, or that would be actually better example. So let's go into that. Uh, no, 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 no. Right. So I have something like here which says that demand. Okay, just let me get it. Yeah, here. So I can see that there is something called table. Okay, and in that table I have something called data, and that is the data from where my actual demand stuff are there. Okay, so basically my if I just go to all of my data that is visible here in this table here, right? Table here. That is exactly is marked by that table thing. Okay, and in that table there is something called data, and that is what else. So I'll just say table, maybe that should work, right? And in I'll just get table. So I got the table. Uh, Again, some issues. So able to find what the issue is. Maybe the availability. I'll just have to see it once here. Mm, Let me just, so basically you will have to inspect the API as well to exactly reach where you want. So there is something called demand, and in that we have something called table, right? And then there is something called data, right? So now it is very easy for me. Now I can simply do that. There is something, my demand, right? In that demand I have another key called table, right? Table, and then inside of that I have another key called data. This is the data that I want. And how I could know is because of these, a key, another key, and then another key, right? Okay, so I'll just go and here. Now I can see that this should print, right? This should be able to print, right? And that printed, and that has my all of that demand data, right? Now, if I wanted to, again, it's up to you, right? Now you should be able to understand that how this happened. Until here, it was a dictionary, right? Until here it was a dictionary. In that dictionary, there was a key called demand, and that demand again was a dictionary in which a key called table. Again, that was also a dictionary in which a key called data, and that data had this particular, this particular response that we wanted. Now we can see that all of this is basically a list with so many dictionaries, right? So I could iterate over it and get the data. So let me just call it my data, right? And say demand data, right? Demand data equal to dict. And since each of them is a dictionary now, right? What I could do was list comprehension I could do, right? Something like that. Maybe. So I want to return another list inside it, and not a list. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to iterate. So for them in demand data, right? Demand data, I want to do something. I don't know what I want to do, but basically what I want to do is that I want to take each of them and uh, uh, basically extract only the values out of it, right? For each of them, I want the values, and then I want to keep it in a list. Okay, hopefully that should make sense. So I'll just say my dem dot values. That's all. This will be again a it should be a iterable, and that's it. So I can just maybe print it, right? Just print it and see that what I wanted have I actually got it. Okay. So I can see now that big values and some maybe I could convert it to list. So list because it's again in a dictionary form until now. So just like this. And now what happens is that my thing was converted into a list, and then that's it. Yeah, that's it I want. That's all I want. If I just want to maybe print it, I could just say that print and just 3D dot data frame, 3D dot data frame, and then I could just pass my this particular list and columns equal to and then if I just print it, now I will see that my list. So I hope this made everything clear to everyone how we did it. Basically my JSON and see how many lines it took actually. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. Yeah, this one is also bogus, right? And I mean that's all I guess. I just put it here and do this and put it here and do this. Actually, just 5 lines of code you needed to convert that data into a data frame, and then just say data equal to this one and then so I just close this one, delete one, and this one also I delete, and just have my one line. My one this one I can see that only in 4 lines of code I could get my data. So I mean that is it. In fact, let me just do data dot to CSV so that I'm able to I have done my final job. Right? So just say data dot CSV or C dash. If I run it, okay, I should be getting a file here. Dash data, download, see what it is, and it is exactly what I want. That is just okay. So I've done it, right? I've got it. So it has 3 days of data that the response sends, right? 27, 28, 29. Because why it sends like that is because my dashboard shows data for 3 days. Okay, that is why it is sending 3 days data. But I was able to extract all my data, right, into a CSV in just 5 lines of code, right? Okay, so I think that is it for today's session, and we have one more session left in which we will do our Selenium, right? And we will learn how to automate the web, right? And that will be final nail in the coffin. And I think after that we should be able to scrape any kind of site and then manipulate any kind of data, export it into multiple files, single files,
as many files as you like, manipulate and create new data frames. Okay. So work with APIs, work with the form generated data. So I think we have a lot of um, things that we have covered. So I think should be fairly confident to now scrape your own websites. Okay. That is it for today's session. So I'll just take questions if there are any, and then we can conclude the session for today. So let me know if there are any issues or any doubts. Please बता दो मेरे को कि if whatever was explained today, uh, was it clear to everyone? Right. I hope it was not too complex the way when I tried to explain it. Dave, Srikar, let's get a
No questions, Anup.
yeah.
No
Hello.
questions in.
No questions.
Hello?
Okay, great, great,
No
great,
questions.
great. So I hope it was clear, right? I will just download this one and share with you. Okay, right. And I think that is it for today's session. We can I'll just stop my recording and then